Computers are an interesting thing to me because they can be both the most amazing thing in the world and the most annoying thing at the exact same time. I think I've talked about how I schedule Windows updates to stop them being an absolute pain in the butt. But there's just a multitude of things that is wrong with computers that we have to deal with on a daily basis. But anyway, hello and welcome back to The Lion's Den. I'm your host Matt, as always, and I'm back in technology land once again because I really want a new tablet. Don't know why I want a new tablet. I don't need a new tablet, but I've been ensnared by the thralls of new shiny technology and I want it. So I suppose for a little bit of context, I am a self-taught artist. I decided to learn how to draw because I wanted to, and I just spent the good part of, 7, 8 years teaching myself how to draw. But the thing is, for me, I was serious enough about it that I've invested a bit of money and obviously a lot of time into making a good setup for myself to draw effectively and draw well. It started out with, sketchbooks and getting some sets of pencils and pens and stuff, and then I grabbed a simple pad tablet for drawing on my computer, and then I've upgraded that to a monitor tablet, and I'll kind of explain the differences in a minute. And that's where I'm sat at currently, and I kind of have this back and forth relationship with drawing because the technology is what really dictates how and when and where I draw. The easiest thing is a sketch pad, right? It's just analog, it's pen, paper, you pick it up whenever you want, it's ready to go, you just draw. A computer, on the other hand, you have to think ahead a little bit, you have to get everything set up and turn things on, get things booting on a computer or whatever and get going. So there's a little bit of friction in that regard of getting it up and running. Especially because in the position I am currently, my desk is host to 3 computers currently: my old laptop, my PC, and my work laptop. So it gets a bit messy trying to keep everything neat and organized and hook everything up into the same peripherals. It's not fun. And I know there are solutions such as a KVM, but I haven't bought one of those yet. Maybe I should consider investing in one. I digress. So recently I've been really into just pen and paper drawing because it's so easy. It's just pick it up and go, and that's fine. But the problem is I'm very limited. I don't have half of the materials or the equipment to do full scale paintings or like watercolor or crayons or any sort of thing be above just graphite pencils. That's all I've got to do traditional work with. So normally what I do now, because it's a lot easier for me, is I do sketching traditionally and then I'll bring that into my digital workflow and go from there. But the biggest problem is it's like, there's extra steps. I wish I could just start straight from the digital side, start sketching on my computer and do the full process, because you can create anything on a computer provided you have the time and the know-how to use the tools in that way. And that's the biggest problem for me, is I'm so lazy. I cannot set up my computer to just go. If my computer was on permanently, the monitor tablet was ready to go and the software was loaded, I'd just sit down and draw. It'd be easy, but obviously that's a stupid idea. So I'm kind of at a bit of a weird impasse where I have this wonderful technology, but I'm not using it just because of pure laziness, which is a hugely first world problem, I understand. But the thing is, I feel like when I had worse technology, it was easier. So I started out with a pad tablet. So what that means is it's literally just a black surface that's sensitive to a pen and pressure, and that essentially emulates a mouse. You connect it to your computer reads it as a mouse, but it also gets things like pressure sensitivity. Now, pressure sensitivity is huge in the art world because it's what simulates physical, real drawing. If you take a pencil and you just lightly touch over the surface, you get a really faint line, right? If you press down really hard, you'll probably break the pencil. But, if you press down really hard, you get a thicker, more defined, strong, dark line. If you have pressure sensitivity on a computer, you can replicate that through software, which is perfect because that's what you want to make it feel natural and to be able to do fun shading and all of that stuff. The next evolution from a pad tablet, which is just emulating a mouse, is a monitor tablet. So what this is it has a screen built into it, and then the pen draws directly on the screen. So it's almost like you've now got a digital pen and paper. It's the same idea as a pen and paper, but now it's digital, and you get all of the flexibility of being on a computer. You can undo and you can emulate different mediums and different blending modes and all of that fun stuff. But in reality, it's not quite like that. it's not one-to-one, or at least the one I've got is not one-to-one, and maybe that's owing to the fact that I didn't pay thousands of pounds for a Wacom or a Wacom, however you want to pronounce it. I bought a Huion, and I think it's great. Honestly, I was really impressed when I bought it, because it's only, I think it was maybe £250 at the time, which, yeah, a lot of money, I will admit, it was a lot of money. For what you get, it's fantastic, to be honest. It's a really nice display. It's all, the biggest thing in display technology is lamination, which is basically where the glass is and where the actual display panel is. If it's laminated, they're fused together, which reduces what's called the air gap. So if you look at like really old LCD screens, there's a distinct difference between where the glass of the screen is and where the actual display panel is, and there's a physical gap. What that means for drawing is if you're trying to draw onto that, where your pen is physically touching the glass, there's then maybe like a couple millimeters before then there's the thing that you can see where it's drawing, which is discombobulating a little bit, because on a real pen and paper, you're touching exactly where you draw. If you laminate the glass, so you bring the two pieces together, you would then actually physically drawing on the screen practically. It's not quite there, and that's the thing that frustrates me. Is I have infinitely greater accuracy drawing on pen and paper as opposed to drawing on my tablet, which is the reason why I can't just start sketching straight onto my computer, because there is this slight discrepancy between where I'm putting the pen down and where I think I'm drawing to versus where it's actually coming out on the computer. And I've tried so many different things to fix that. I've tried calibrating it differently, I've tried changing settings, resetting stuff, uninstalling and reinstalling, and nothing seems to fix it. It just seems like a slight inherent limitation of the technology. And I think one of the other big problems with it is a selling point of the product, which is the problem. The Huion tablets, as they went in their race to chase Wacom, Wacom, whatever you want to call it, they added tilt support. Now that, in theory, is really clever. It essentially allows you to now have another depth of input to the device. So again, going back to the pencil analogy, if you've got a really long piece of the pencil lead and you tilt slightly, you can get a wider surface area for like doing really big sweeping shading, and you get different textures based on the paper you're using, right? Wonderful. And you can do this in software. Again, if you have this input, the software can read it and say, right, I'm going to pretend to tilt this digital brush that you're using and get you a wide stroke or different shading properties. And that's great, but an awkward thing is I don't use that at all in my workflow. It's not a thing I use at all. But the problem is your natural way of holding a pen or a pencil, right, is at an angle. So the tablet is constantly reading a tilt angle, which is a problem because then it offsets where the brush actually appears on the display. That's the problem, right? Where I think it's actually touching the display and drawing is not where it's actually reading, because of the slight discrepancy in the glass lamination and the slight discrepancy that's introduced by the tilt angle. And I think that's what has really frustrated me, is because on a Huion tablet, there is no way to turn it off. Why there's no way to turn it off? I'm not sure. There's possibly some weird hacky solution, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to try and fiddle around with things that potentially might break it or break my computer, but it is a problem. And I've tried calibrating it with this tilt in mind, so like physically rotating my hand where I would normally be drawing and tapping. But the problem is you move around a bit. You're not really in a stationary position when you write or when you draw. Your hand's kind of doing weird movements to get into the right position that's the most comfortable. So again, the calibration will never be correct for the whole time that you're drawing. And I think the biggest thing for me is that really frustrates me is imagine trying to just connect two lines. You know, you draw one line and then you want to start where the first line ended and draw another one. That is really, really hard to do on the tablet I've got currently, versus doing it on pen and paper. And the stupid thing is that with a pad tablet, I didn't have this issue. The pad tablet could have a tilt, right? But I wouldn't have this issue. And the reason is because where your pen is and where you're looking are two different places with the pad tablet. You're looking up at a screen, whereas the pad tablet's down on the ground. So you can see exactly where the cursor is. Whereas when you're using a monitor tablet, the pen is physically obscuring where the cursor is. So you can't tell where the cursor is actually going down until you've started drawing and realized you were off by like half a millimeter. And it's really, really annoying. And it's a big reason why I kind of got frustrated and don't use it much anymore, because I can't really. It's frustratingly limiting in that sense. Now, this has been a huge long rant, and I'm going to make this a long episode. Why not? We're going for it. It'll be annoying to edit though, but yeah, hey. Yeah. So what is the problem and what is the solution? That's mean I've got the technology book. We're circling back now to where I started with this episode. The Samsung Galaxy Tab S8. That's where we're heading. They released this recently. It looks fantastic. It has everything I want now in an upgraded tablet. So currently I have the Tab S5e, which was a wonderful and stupid decision at the same time, but that's for another time. The S8 has pen support. It has a higher refresh rate display, newer processor, I think more RAM, maybe more storage. It looks really nice. And I've gone to tech stores and tried it, and I am really impressed because one thing that they've done is they've improved the latency of the pen. Now what that means is it's a Bluetooth pen or a like an induction pen, which means that there's a slight delay between when you put the pen on the screen and when the screen and the computer behind the tablet goes, right, it's here, let me draw here. But they've got this down to something like 3 milliseconds, which is practically unperceivable between pen and paper, and I can attest to that. Writing on it feels exactly like writing on pen and paper, and it's astonishing how natural it feels. The next thing is I don't have the accuracy issue that I do with my current computer tablet. I can sketch, or I did it actually in the store, I can sketch on it, no problem. It's smoother because there's less disparity between where I think I'm drawing and where I'm actually drawing, so my lines come out smoother, and I can actually accurately draw in the place I want to draw. I could do my whole line thing where I draw one line and then pick up where one line ended and draw from that point. No problem, no issue whatsoever, which is a joy. It makes drawing on it so nice. And I think the other thing is it's even more frictionless than the computer setup. It's almost as frictionless as a pen and paper setup, and that is fantastic. Why? It's a tablet. Tablets are designed to be always on devices, which means that you can pick it up and just go, right? So the only barrier to entry to drawing on a tablet like that is you pick it up, you turn it on, you open the app, go. Whereas for like my computer, I have to flick all the switches on, I have to turn the computer on, I have to turn the tablet on, I have to open the program, make sure that everything's set up correctly. No, none of that. On a tablet, it's just pick it up, open the app, go. That's fantastic. And that idea is really tantalizing, and it's annoying because I want it, but the problem is it's £650. That's really expensive if you didn't realise. So I'm in a little bit of a dilemma. Do I drop £650 on the tablet just so I can have a better drawing experience? Or do I suck it up and use the technology that I've got? Hard to say, to be honest. Now, there is a slight argument that I use my tablet quite a bit, mainly for media consumption, but also for a couple other things. So it's not entirely that I'm dropping this amount of money on a device for drawing. I'm using it for other things, but it is still a lot of money, and yeah, it's a hard pill to swallow, because whenever I'm buying something as an upgrade, my brain always says, do you need this? Do you need a significant upgrade over the item that you've got? And the answer is no, really. A good example would be my phone. The reason I bought a new phone is because 2.5, 3 years later, my old phone was getting slow and very unusable. So it was well worth an upgrade to something newer that was not falling apart. Whereas with my tablet and with my drawing stuff that I've got, none of it really needs upgrading. None of it's broken, none of it's unusable outside of my bugs. Whilst I have that gripe with my current tablet for drawing, it still is fine, and I've created pieces on it that are better and better and better. So really, it's not like it needs replacing. I want to replace it is the thing. Which maybe is a justification because it's frustrating and I'm ending up not using it because I'm frustrated by it. But still, it feels bad to spend money on something that technically I don't need, if that makes sense. So I've got the technology book. Once again, I'm always looking at shiny brand new technology that I can't really afford, but I can afford, but I shouldn't be spending the money on. What a first world problem that is to have, hey? But anyway, if I ever do end up buying it, you'll know, because I'll squeal and be super happy. I suppose just to clarify, the reason why the Tab S5e doesn't do the same thing that the Tab S8 does is because it's the E version. It's the one tablet that Samsung released without a pen. All of the other Tab S, insert number up to 8, has a pen, except the E. Except the 5E. Why did I buy the 5E? It was a good price. That's why I bought it. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed listening to my struggles, and I will see you all next week. Bye.